My wife, 36, and I, 38 male, have been married for 12 years and have 3 kids, pre-tween, and a kindergartner. None of our kids have phones yet, so about 6 months ago we talked with all 3 of them to discuss what they should do if they ever get lost, are in danger, need help, etc. One of the things we talked about was them knowing both mine and my wife's phone numbers. I even made some flashcards with our numbers and their grandparents' numbers so they could memorize them. We kind of turned it into a game to help them learn, and it worked great. During that time, it came up that my wife didn't know my phone number by heart. In fact, she doesn't have any phone numbers memorized anymore. I told her that she should have at least mine and someone else's, like her mom, memorized in case she can't use her phone and she needs to get a hold of someone. She told me I was overreacting and that it wasn't a big deal. She then asked if I had her number memorized, and I reeled it off to her without hesitation, along with my mom's, dad's, and my younger brother's. Well, a couple of weeks ago she was at a work event about an hour from where we live. She somehow managed to lock her purse in her car. Her purse had her car keys and her phone inside, so she had no way to get home or call me. Thankfully, a co-worker of hers was willing to drive her home, but then we had to pile all 3 kids into the car and drive an hour to get her car and then drive back home. Of course, one thing that came up during that drive was that my wife had no way to contact me because she didn't know my number. If she had my number memorized, I could have brought her keys to her and saved her co-worker from the inconvenience. She got very defensive about it, which I'm sure was because of embarrassment. But I used the situation as an example and told her that if it was an emergency instead, then it would be a much bigger problem. She eventually agreed that she would try to memorize some phone numbers. Naturally, since we already had flashcards at home for this very reason, it would be a good way to help her learn. I got the kids involved as well just to reinforce that memorization for them. Problem was that my wife couldn't memorize the numbers. My kids knew them all by heart, even the 5-year-old. My wife got frustrated and embarrassed. She said she would just write numbers on a piece of paper and put it in her purse. I had to remind her that the idea would do absolutely no good if she locked her purse in the car again or lost it. She got upset with me and told me that no one memorizes numbers anymore and that even if it was an emergency, she would figure something out. I told her that's not good enough for me. I told her I don't care how frustrating or embarrassing it is for her, but she needs to memorize at least my number and someone else's. She told me I'm being a big jerk about this and making it into a huge deal when it doesn't need to be. Am I the idiot for using a kid's teaching technique on my wife? You are the idiot. Your wife is not your child, so you should probably stop treating her like she is. Have you tried anything else? If she can't remember your phone number, then get her a bracelet or necklace with it on there. I'm wondering if your wife has some learning disability affecting her ability to memorize numbers. OP is so condescending even in this post. I can't imagine how insufferable it would be to deal with this in real life. I have dyscalculia. It's a learning disability involving math and other issues. I can't remember timetables, percentages, etc. I could never remember phone numbers. If OP's wife suddenly can't remember phone numbers, a doctor visit is in order. My wife was diagnosed with early onset dementia in her 50s, and she hid it successfully for a few years until it became apparent. I don't mean to sound dismissive, but this still strikes me as a WebMD diagnosing cancer from a headache situation. It can be very rationally assumed that she just doesn't remember numbers because her phone does it for her. Dementia and dyscalculia are dramatic and unnecessary stretches without a lot more to go on. It's normal not to remember phone numbers. It's just a little irresponsible to not remember your partners or emergency contacts. Agreed, not everything is a disability or illness that we need to be compassionate about. Also, if she can't remember your phone number, then get her a bracelet or necklace with it on there might be the biggest crap I've ever read. That is the way to treat someone like a child. You are telling them that you don't trust them enough with basic information that they have to wear it. I guarantee OP's wife can memorize his number. It genuinely just sounds like she's embarrassed. I've never experienced a sales assistant being so rude to me before, so maybe I overreacted. Last week I was looking for a birthday gift. There was only one free sales assistant, and I could tell she didn't want me to approach her as she intentionally avoided eye contact and walked away when I was close. I waited 10 minutes hoping another sales assistant would be free, but they weren't, and it was getting late, so I approached the original sales assistant. She brushed me off without helping me, so I went back to browsing on my own as my husband was going to meet me there. When my husband arrived, her demeanor changed and she suddenly wanted to do her job. I was looking at a bag I would have bought myself if it wasn't for the rude sales assistant. My husband asked me if I wanted to get it. Still, I said no, as the rude sales assistant would have been the one to benefit from the commission, as, by this point, she come over and offered to help us. A few days later, my husband surprised me with the exact same bag. I asked him if he got it from the same place and if it was the same sales assistant who had helped him. It was, so I told him I wanted to return it. He knows she was rude and dismissive when I tried to ask her for help, but he still didn't want me to return the bag as he said I would be missing out because of a random stranger. To him, the commission isn't a big deal, but I don't think she should benefit after how rude she was. If he'd bought the bag with a different sales assistant, I would have kept it, but since he didn't, I returned it. Now he's upset because I returned his gift. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. Is getting back at the salesgirl really worth the cost of hurting her husband's feelings, though? Just complain to the store. This seems unnecessarily petty. To me, it wouldn't just be about the commission, though that would be part of it, but after having a horrible interaction with the sales associate, the whole bag would be tainted. I wouldn't be able to look at it without thinking of the interaction and the stress it caused me and feeling a little bit sad or angry, especially when I knew she got the commission. Your husband wanted to get you a lovely gift. Unfortunately, that bag from that person is no longer a lovely gift, but he wasn't to know, so I feel like neither of you are idiots. I would go back to the establishment, find a different sales associate and return the bag, then immediately buy the bag from the new sales associate. Old associate loses a commission and new friendly associate gets a commission. You have the bag you want and petty revenge. Everyone is a winner except the rude associate. I'd also be sure to let the store manager know. Who knows how many sales they might have lost due to an unhelpful sales associate? Pretty Woman, anyone? Years later, I still love that scene. I, 27 female, met my husband Jamie, 27 male, in high school. He was the boy with the bad reputation for dumb crap, and by dumb crap I mean not stuff he did but stuff he didn't do, like going home or having an adult around him. His mom was an addict who didn't let him come home before 12 a.m. on any given night, so he'd spent his time in different places, which made adults think poorly of him. By the time people realized it was because he had a crappy mother, they judged him for her actions. My parents were some of those judgmental people. They'd see him out past dark and make comments. They were awful when Jamie and I started dating. I told them they considered themselves Christian and should be more understanding and welcoming of someone who didn't have a good home life. They'd say he wasn't trying, like he could do anything about his mom. They judged him for not going to college. They deemed him lazy for not going, even though he held a job until he was 14 and, with the help of the couple he worked for, went to trade school. My parents were so crappy about it all that we didn't talk for a whole year. Then they reached out to me via my siblings to apologize, and they appeared to accept Jamie and realized they'd been wrong about him. Jamie always got along with my siblings, but he started to get along with my parents too, and it was nice. We got married 2 years ago and we welcomed our first baby together in June. Last month we had a big fight. They showed that they kept their opinions to themselves for this long, but they never saw Jamie as a good person. They always saw him as trash. It all started because Jamie was alone with the baby for an entire day and they were horrified. I trusted him to watch our child without me there. They spewed such hateful things about Jamie that aren't true. He's an amazing dad and husband. He's not his mother. He has never been in trouble with the law, so the fact they spoke about him like he was some criminal, I was so angry. I kicked them out and told them I was done with them. We're still good with my siblings, which is where this post is taking us. We started talking about Christmas, and Jamie and I said we'd host them. My mom was trying to get my siblings to ask me if I'd come to Christmas dinner at their house with the baby. One sibling said Jamie and I were hosting. Upon learning that, my mom took said sibling's phone and called, asking me how I could leave them uninvited. I told them that if they ever wanted to be invited to anything again, they would truly reflect on their actions and words and make a real and heartfelt apology to Jamie, but that is the only way, and it has to be real and to him and not me. I then hung up on my mom. My parents are now claiming I'm trying to blackmail them, which I don't think they truly know what that means. And a text, I assume it's from Mom, accused me of being disrespectful of my parents and saying you can't demand an apology. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your parents clearly don't know their place. They claim to be Christian but don't appear to know the basic foundation of how a marriage works. When you and your spouse married, you became one, so by insulting him, they're insulting you. It isn't their place to chime in with their baseless opinions unless you ask for their advice first. If they want to be right fighters, let them fight that war alone. Trust me, the stress and anxiety over this isn't worth it. Let them simmer a while and hopefully they'll come around. If they don't, your heart will go on. You can't demand an apology. Ha ha, watch me. Demand, give, accept and reject are the only things to do with an apology. But sweetie, I would close that door on a relationship with your parents. They are judgmental and manipulative. How would you feel if and when you catch them bad-mouthing your husband to his own child? They've shown you who they truly are more than once. This happened yesterday and it weirdly shook me and I can't stop overthinking it. My family had just dropped off my grandpa at a dementia care home. My mom stayed with him to get him settled, and my little sister and I went to the grocery store to get him an assortment of snacks and necessities. We were in a shopping aisle and my sister got really emotional, and we were just talking about missing him and hoping he'd be okay. She was getting teary-eyed, and I guess we were speaking kind of loudly, because the next thing I knew, a woman was tapping me on the shoulder and handing me a business card. She said, "I'm a tween counsellor, please don't hesitate to give me a call." I immediately said, "Well, we're both in our 20s, so we won't need that," and returned the card to her. She looked so taken aback by my comment and just kind of froze next to us. I ushered my sister away and just tried to forget it. Well, when we were checking out, the woman was in the lane next to us and she was giving me and my sister a noticeable side eye. Then an older man standing behind us in line leaned over to her and apologized for my behavior because I guess he'd witnessed our interaction. He said he'd never get used to how rude the younger generation is, and then he leaned closer to me and my sister and said, "That woman was just trying to be courteous to you. There was no reason to be so dismissive to a kind stranger." I literally had no idea what to say. My sister didn't either. I just turned completely away from him and thankfully was able to use checking out the groceries as an excuse to move on from the interaction. On the way back to my grandpa, my sister and I just kind of laughed at how weird it was, but for some reason, I can't stop thinking about it. In my opinion, the woman way overstepped when she offered us her card. She didn't know us or what we were dealing with at all. When my sister and I left the store, we could feel them staring at us. It was so uncomfortable and weird. Am I the idiot for being rude? I'm an old lady, 71 years old. I believe offering a business card for counselling is no different than offering unsolicited advice. It's rude to butt into someone's conversation. Your conversation, loud or not, was none of her business. Yes, she was trying to help, but people do such things to make themselves feel good, not to benefit the people they think they can help. Not the idiot. Her response to your response is none of your business. If she was embarrassed, well, really, that's the price we pay for butting in where we don't belong. I'm about a month away from becoming an associate therapist. I work with many licensed therapists that own their practice. I can't imagine any of them behaving the way this lady did toward you and your sister. It seems creepy to just shove a business card in your face and tell you she's a counsellor. If she truly cared, she'd have said something like, "I'm a counsellor, would you like to sit and talk a while?" Not look for new clients. The original poster should have spat back, "How much will that be in an hour?" And the old man needs to mind his own heck business. Stay in your lane. I am 37 male. My ex-wife, Deanna, 36, and I have 2 kids, our daughter Jane, pre-tween female, and our son Eddie, pre-tween male. We married semi-young at 23 and 24 and divorced amicably 5 years ago. Deanna recently married a man she's been seeing for a few years who I will call A. Something I need to bring up here is that I'm half Mexican, Deanna is a white woman, and A is of Middle Eastern descent. While I wouldn't say A and I are friends, I do think he's a pretty nice guy and seems like a really good match for Deanna. The kids also like him, so that's another bonus in my book. Diana and I split custody of the kids. However, Deanna and A got married 2 months ago. Since then, Deanna has chosen to wear a covering, which I'm sorry about, but the name has slipped my mind. She's converted to A's religion as well. I'm very happy about that if that's what she wants. But last week, when she dropped off the kids, I was surprised to see that Jane was wearing one as well, but I assume she must have wanted to wear it and was maybe deciding to convert her faith as well, so I didn't bring it up. I feel that she's old enough to decide for herself, and as an atheist myself, I'm all for my children choosing what they believe. A few days ago, I was going to see a movie with my kids, but told them I had to finish some paperwork in my office first, which took about half an hour. When I walked back into the living room, Jane was wearing one of Eddie's t-shirts and a pair of shorts. We had a conversation that kind of went like this. Me: What's going on? Jane, are you supposed to take off your cover? I don't really know how any of this works, sorry if that offends anyone. Eddie, she hates wearing that stuff, so I let her borrow some of my clothes. Jane, yeah, Dad, I hate it. Mom makes me wear it. She says I have to wear it all the time, even at your house. Me, so you aren't choosing to wear it? Jane, no, I never want to wear it again. I checked her bag and sure enough it contained tank tops, underwear and coverings, which cover the hair and body but not the face. I took the kids on a quick Target trip before the movie to get Jane some clothes of her liking. 2 days ago, when Deanna came by to pick up the kids, she flipped out on Jane for not wearing traditional clothing. Deanna and I got into a heated argument and I told her that Jane shouldn't have to wear the covering if she doesn't want to, especially because it's very hot in our city. Deanna argued that she and the kids are now different and follow a stricter religion. I might be the idiot because I argued back that it's stupid that the religion would force young girls to cover up so much all the time and be so strict about it. Deanna took offense and left with the kids. I feel bad because I don't want to insult a whole country or countries, but I don't think my daughter should have to wear anything she doesn't want to. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, and you better take steps in court to make sure you shut this nonsense down now. Jane is only a pre-tween. They are going to make her life a living heck in her teens if you allow this to continue. This is not a my house, my rules situation, and it isn't about comfort or solidarity. Your ex-wife is allowing her husband to force his own religion on your daughter, a child over whom he has absolutely no authority. Shut it down. I'm worried about your daughter going back to that house. I'm betting that once Deanna got her back home, Jane was punished for not dressing modestly. I'm also willing to bet that if you sent any of the clothes you bought her back to her mom's with, those new clothes are now gone. I'd also not be surprised if Deanna prevented her from coming back to your house the next time you had custody of them.